Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Back Nine Report. Every week, my co-host Fred Altvater and I get together and check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. My name is Carlos Torres, and every week I'm alongside my co-host Fred Altvater. Fred, hi, how are you this week?
Well, Carlos, I'm back up here in Michigan, and just a couple days ago we had frost, and today the temperature peaked out at about 85 degrees, and it's still about 82 here right now. And so I'm in the cottage. We don't have great air conditioning here, so I'm kind of burning up here at the minute. So if I start melting, you'll know what the problem is. But hey, we've got another week of really no real tournament action. No exhibitions, no big deals going on this week, but we're a week closer to play. They're looking to start next week. That's still on as far as we know. And then there's a lot of jockeying on behind the scenes, what this tournament's going to do, what that tournament's going to do. We're going to have all that for you. As always, we've got everything for you right here on the Back Nine Report. But the top stories this week, Carlos, another PGA Tour stop and the Mackenzie Tour canceled for this year. Vijay Singh withdrew from that Korn Ferry Tour event he was going to play in, and Little John Daly performed well in the same course his dad won the PGA Championship on. So we got a lot of golf to talk about. So let's go, Carlos.
It's incredible, Fred. I mean, we have a packed show. Hopefully we can get everything that we have for you guys. It's an amazing amount of news that we have for you, and we're still not playing. That's amazing. Anyway, let's start talking. And by the way, Fred, don't worry, I got you. If you get melted, I'll just put a picture of you right here.
Yeah, okay, good.
Keep talking, no worries about it. I got you.
Okay.
Anyway, I know you like this piece of news that we're going to start right away, and it's because Muirfield Village will be hosting back-to-back PGA Tour events this summer. That's because the PGA Tour announced today that it has reached an agreement with Workday, which is to title the sponsor of an official tour event at Muirfield Village Golf Club, very near you in Dublin, Ohio. Now, what's going to happen is that this event will take place July 6th to July 12th. You're going to ask, well, what happened? Wasn't that the John Deere Classic that was going to be there? Yes, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it'll happen the week immediately preceding the Memorial Tournament presented by Nationwide. That's going to be on July 13th to the 19th. That means this new full field open event will be played without spectators and takes the place of the recently canceled John Deere Classic, which will return to the schedule next year. Now, the tour will issue a full release with more details as those are finalized later this week. So we don't have the complete information on it. But as far as the John Deere Classic, well, it will no longer happen this year because of restrictions in the state of Illinois regarding the large gatherings. See, Illinois is limiting so far gatherings to 50 people, which led to this cancellation. The tournament was the fifth one on the PGA Tour's revised schedule. And it meant, because the importance for this, it was that it was going to be the first tournament that it was going to be allowing spectators back in attendance. So the tournament director, Claire Peterson, was talking to ESPN's Bob Herrick and said, hey, we just couldn't make it, work it all out. I mean, the restrictions on the gatherings were going to be just too much. So, Fred, all we know so far is that the tour is set to reset the schedule again. It's going to start next weekend with the Charles Schwab Challenge taking place in Fort Worth. Then the next week, they'll have the RBC Heritage, the Travelers Championship will follow, and the Rocket Mortgage Championship before this new Workday Open, or however they're going to call it. It's going to be back-to-back there. I bet you're excited because you're going to have back-to-back PGA Tour tournaments there just basically in your backyard. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually. I first heard about this yesterday. I picked up, I was talking to another media person yesterday, and he was telling me, did you hear that Muirfield's going to take the spot of the John Deere? And I hadn't heard, and so I got to researching it, and then the official announcement came today. Let's talk about the John Deere for a minute, Carlos. it really didn't get a lot of the respect that it deserves. It's really a good tournament there in Illinois. And, just to tell you, over the last 4 years, it has raised 10.5 million, 12.25 million, 13.45 million, and 13.82 million last year in charitable dollars. That's amazing. That's like $50 million over the last 4 years that they've raised for charity, and the PG and they can't have the tournament this year. Now they've already locked in, they've already guaranteed that they got $10 million going to the 500 charities that they're going to support this year. So that's a done deal. So kudos to them for getting that done. But there was just too many things involved at the John Deere, Carlos. They couldn't have the Pro-Am, so that lost $1 million in revenue. Corporate sponsors for the hospitality spaces, their people were not willing to come in and mingle. So they said, even the people we invite, they're not excited about coming, so we're just not going to do it. So there goes that money. It also there, it's a little bit smaller clubhouse. It's a little bit smaller parking lot. They can't really handle the big crowds there. So there was no room to keep spacing. And so that was a big factor as well. So when you roll all this stuff together, it just made sense that they had to cancel it for this year. They're going to come back next year, 2021. The charities are still going to be taken care of. But now that week is going to be covered by the Workday tournament. The Workday, I guess, they sponsor Phil Mickelson, I think. So Phil will probably be front and center at this event. But it's going to be without fans at Muirfield the week before the Memorial, the week after the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit. So that will allow the players to kind of be self-quarantined there in Columbus, kind of, be clustered by themselves. Excuse me. So big announcement from Muirfield Village. Really, really very shocking, really surprising to me that this happened. But should be good for Columbus, should be good for Jack Nicklaus and Muirfield Village, Carlos.
Definitely. There's one point very important that you're mentioning. I mean, back-to-back weekends make it available for the players to just stay in one place without having to be moving back, and that logistics will make it easier for them. Hey, they're going to have the same field, same course twice in a row. Maybe they're not the same full fields, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Muirfield Village handles that back-to-back, having to make sure the course stays basically tour capable for 2 weekends. That's not easy to do. So
another point too, Carlos, is that with being at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit, it's only about a 2.5-hour drive or so down to Columbus from Detroit, so they don't have to fly. Saves that risk of being in an airplane as well. They can just drive down to Columbus.
Oh, definitely. That's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, and that'll depend on which ones are going to come down from Detroit to go down there and to Muirfield Village, but definitely makes it a lot more easy. Now, sad news on the Mackenzie Tour, but one that maybe we could expect. The Mackenzie Tour, which is the PGA Tour back developmental circuit in Canada, has canceled its 2020 season because of the continuing COVID-19 restrictions. The Mackenzie Tour executive director, Scott Pritchard, said they weighted all of their options and concluded, hey, it's not feasible to play this due to the growing uncertainty surrounding the border and the 14-day quarantine regulations, among other factors. You have to understand that players, even though this is a Canadian tour, there is players from the U.S., there's players from all over the place. They're international players that are playing there, and they don't make home in Canada. So those restrictions about the quarantines, and this is what we've been saying about the European players coming here to the States, why they don't want to come right away is because of those restrictions. Now, Pritchard also said that the move would give Mackenzie Tour members a chance to play elsewhere, while this competition in Canada remained curtailed. The Mackenzie Tour's 8th season had been scheduled to begin this week at the Canada Life Open in Vancouver, and it had set to include 13 tournaments, which was going to be the most in the tour's history. And now it's over. Now, you might ask, okay, but what happens with the eligibility of the players for next season? Well, the tour has already sent the tour members some information regarding this, and there's two very important things to know. One is that the prior members, the status for them is going to be based on the order of merit results from the 2019 season, with the top 60 players are going to be exempt. Now, meanwhile, the players who earned the status at the three completed 2020 qualifying tournaments, those will retain the status for next season. And those qualifying tournament entrants yet to compete will be guaranteed spots at any 2021 qualifying site. So, I mean, Fred, the tour really had no choice but to fold the season and get an extremely early start for planning next year. Again, this is an unfortunate victim of the new reality of the uncertainty that the COVID-19 virus is bringing, especially with crossing borders and states restrictions, country restrictions, basically, on quarantining for 14 days.
Yeah, we're seeing this with all the minor tours, Carlos. The Sumatra Tour, the Mackenzie Tour, the Latin American Tour, even the European Tour, because they have to cross borders. The 2-week quarantining is just killing these tours. So you can't, you got to go in 2 weeks ahead of time. If you're going to play 2 or 3 weeks in a row, it's just going to kill your year. And so with all the problems of travel and everything involved with the COVID-19, it just makes sense to cancel the whole season. It's really unfortunate for these young kids that are trying to earn enough money to make their way up to the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour and the next step up. They got to go find a place to play. I don't know where it's going to be because traveling someplace is not there. Some minor tour events, some mini tours like in Arizona that we've reported on, and Florida that we've talked about. You can play some of those, but there's not much money in those things. So, but at least it's a place to play for some of those guys. So, it's really unfortunate. Mackenzie Tour has been doing a great job up there in Canada, but not this year.
Yeah, the Mackenzie Tour is one of those 3 international tours backed by the PGA Tour, like the Latin America is the other one as well, that are being affected so far. And those are the ones that are like the feeder tours for the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour. So at least not good news for those players that wanted to have that chance to start moving up. But hey, at least we know that they're going to have some opportunities to play elsewhere. And the Mackenzie Tour definitely should have enough time right now to start working on what's going to be maybe the biggest season. They were already set to have the biggest season of their tour history for this year. Fortunately, it's not going to happen, but hey, they have now about a year to plan for that. Okay, now let's move on to the European Tour, where we have been talking to you about for the past 2 weeks about those first 6 tournaments that they have been thinking about restarting the tour, the schedule back in the UK. Now, it's going to be in different places. We already gave you some details about it. It has been official now. And Keith Paley, the European Tour CEO, was having a conversation this past week and was talking about those 6 tournaments, and also was very candid talking about the European Tour's financial state and what is next for them. And Fred, he even talked about the possibility of bankruptcy and all that. Your thoughts on this European Tour, Keith Paley, opening up? And I mean, just tell us what he said that we didn't know, right? But what about this interview piqued your interest?
Yeah, we've been following the European Tour and their problems very closely for the last few weeks. They're going to try and get going in England with these 6 events. They have these commitments, a television commitment. They have to have some tournaments for the tournament, for the TV over there. So they got huge liability, huge financial liability to that. Also, they're trying to hang in there and have some events prior to the Ryder Cup. They're going to get a gob of money from that Ryder Cup, even though it's held in the U.S. They're still going to get a chunk of that money. So they need that money to keep their operation going. And evidently, they found a way to get it done. So Pelly said, we've had a difficult time like everybody else. It's not an easy financial situation. We have produced a strategy that has allowed us to do 3 things. They can navigate through the initial phase of the crisis, resurrect the 2020 schedule, and help prepare for short term for 2021. It's also helped create a platform to help plan for the long term out to 222 and on out from there. The European Tour is not out of the woods yet, but it has survived to fight another day. They need their part of that Ryder Cup money. They need to get to 2022, so the Ryder Cup is in Europe where they get a big chunk of the money, and that helps them get through to the next 2 years. I'm guessing that they found some kind of a financial backer that would loan them the money based off getting that chunk of money a couple years down the road, or spreading it out over 6 to 8 years is what I'm guessing. Another thing, that Pelly wants, he's an innovator, Carlos. We've said that before. He wants to, and he's a TV guy. He really, he tries to make his events so that they're very pleasing to the fans and for viewing on television. He wants to have more players mic'd up during play. I don't know how that's gonna work. Being mic'd up for an exhibition like we've been watching, a couple weeks before, that's one thing. When you're out there just playing for funsies, but when you're out there really doing your job and trying to make a cut and trying to make birdies to be in the top 5 or top 10, I don't know that guys are really going to want to have microphones on them. That's just one more thing to be concerned about or be thinking about, to watch your language or watch what you're doing or, watch your body language. And a lot of guys can't handle that. Their minds are going all over the place. Have a mic on when they're trying to concentrate and play a serious competitive round of golf. I don't know how that's going to work. I know that the technology is great and it becomes more of a way of life for everyone. And Carlos, you're involved in it more than I am on a daily basis, although I'm doing a lot more than I ever imagined I would, I got to tell you. But some players are not going to be fans of wearing mics during tournament round. Wearing one for an exhibition is one thing, but being mic'd up for a competitive round is something else entirely, Carlos.
It's definitely different. I think that he saw the success that on this too, like you mentioned, they were exhibitions, so they were not playing for the real big time money, but it was successful to see the players' interaction. Now, what I'm skeptical about is if it's going to have the same effect, because the players are not interacting with each other anymore. Okay, that's one of the differences. The other one, they're going to be talking to their caddies. Maybe that's what you want to hear about, or maybe they want to try to see if they can do maybe some interviews mid-game. Again, it's going to be messing up with the players' rhythm and what they're going to be doing. They're used to do every week in and week out. It would be interesting to see how they're going to do it. I don't think they should put a mic on the players, maybe have one of these big booms that they already use to put on the field and maybe have it by different holes, and maybe you can get more players. That would be my suggestion to Keith. Hey, put one of these big microphones that picks up the whole area, the sound that is on that area. Maybe that's the way that you can capture whatever they're talking about. But I don't know. To me, it would be interesting to see how they do it, but I don't see it as a big deal because we're not going to see the same interaction that we saw here in these two exhibitions that we had just had this past 2 weeks. But hey,
all you're going to have is the interaction between the caddy and the player. The players talk a little bit, maybe when they're walking from the tee down to their approach shot. They may talk about where they had dinner last night or, a great vacation spot or complain about their wife or something like that. But, it's not really that entertaining. And all they're really going to get is the conversation, well, what is it to the front? What's in the middle? What's the back? What is clear that bunker? That's about what they're going to have. Where's the wind coming out of? What have I got? What kind of shot am I looking at? That gets old pretty quick, Carlos.
Definitely. But hey, if they make it maybe here and there, maybe it'll work. I don't know. We don't have the details, right? But let's see how Pelly comes up with it. Like you talked about and we have said before, he's a great innovator and he likes to give all these props to the people on the TV when they're watching. But we'll see. They need to bring something so they can keep those fans on the TV. But now moving on, and this one is very interesting because Jeff Shackelford reported that Golf.com's Michael Bamberger has been talking to Greg Norman about a variety of subjects. And in part 4, he says that Greg Norman says that he's hearing how the PGA Tour is trying to sweeten the pot to retain players who might be swayed by the Premier Golf League. Now, I mean, you might remember Norman was the first one to come up with that idea of a World Golf Tour, and says he has not been in touch with the league founders of the PGL since February. Of course, they have been also silent since the coronavirus pandemic started, but he hears that the PGA Tour is eyeing also select European Tour events to expand their current WGCs. Now, Fred, what is Greg Norman talking about, and does it have any substance about it? Is he just trying to get some attention to something? Is he just doing the work for the PGL? I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainties there that I still don't have it clear, but what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this would all work. He was very vague about it. What he's saying is that, number one, that Saudi Arabia put another $40 billion into their attraction, their entertainment budget. $40 billion, okay? So Saudi Arabia is putting a lot of money out there to improve their public relations image around the world. As we all know, it's not that great. And so, and they were offering to put in $10 million purses for these 18 tournaments they wanted to have under the Premier Golf League. Well, Norman says that the PGA Tour is putting in $40 million to be split up among the top 8 players, with the top player getting $8 million, a more bonus. They're already paying $15 million for the Tour Championship for the FedEx Cup. They're paying $15 million. Well, I don't get this. That, you know, the top 50 players and the top 10 players, they get in these WGCs, they're into the majors, they're into the guaranteed money, they're into the invitationals. They already have it. Their path is lined with gold, okay? You know, the tour total purse, if this were a normal year, if it would have gone the way it was supposed to go, I think the total purse this year was going to be close to $400 million, okay, for the 43 events. Now, not real great at math, but 43 into 400 million, that's real close to $10 million per tournament. Some of them were 15 million, you know, like the Players Championship and the US Open, and some of them are paying more money. But a lot of them, there are hardly any under $6 million on the PGA Tour anymore. So they're all really good money. Even the opposite field events are 3 million or something like that. So Norman is saying that they want to pay the top 8 players more. Well, that's against the PGA Tour bylaws. They can't really do that unless they change the rules of the whole deal. So, you know, if you come in at number 9 and you're just out of that top 8, you're not going to be a very happy camper. You're not going to be very happy if you're 10, 11, or 12. If you were that close, you're probably only just, you know, a few $1,000s away of getting that big bonus. Now, the FedEx Cup is set so that the top 125 get a good payday. They even pay down from 125 to 150, get a bonus, right? It's not real big, but they get it. They just don't get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Then those guys, the top 125, they at least get that bonus money for the first round of the playoffs. Then they get more for the second round. And then if they make it to the top 30, then they really get a big bump. So there's like $70 million there that gets split up just in those 3 tournaments, okay? So, I mean, this blows my mind. I don't know how they would do this. I don't think they can do it, Carlos. It sounds kind of like, I don't know, maybe somebody's floating a trial balloon here, but I don't think they can do this. I think it has to be split up among more different ways to do it. But one thing I do like in here, I do like having more WGC-like events, but in Europe or some other international country. You know, we've talked about this before on a World Golf Tour, making like the Japan tournament, the Korean tournament, maybe a tournament in Australia, maybe a couple tournaments in Europe, elevate their status, make the American players go over there and play in them for big money. I do like that idea, and I could see that working somewhere along the line. I don't see this idea that Greg Norman's floating. I don't know how it would work.
I don't even know how they're going to be ranking those 8 players. What is it going to be based on? What are you going to say that this is my 1 through 8? Is it going to be because of the FedEx Cup? We don't know that. Like you mentioned, Greg was being a little vague on everything. But if we do know something, is that when he started those talks and those dreams about that World Golf Tour, that's how the WGCs came about. So it might be, and we have been talking about a lot of, there has been a lot of chatter about trying to keep the PGL away, and maybe collaboration between the European Tour and the PGA Tour. It might come in that way of the WGCs expanding to 4 more tournaments, maybe make it 8 total in the world. Maybe like you're mentioning, the best target would be that Japan in the championship in Japan and the one in the CJ Cup, and maybe 2 of the big ones in the European Tour, the British Masters, or maybe the BMW PGA Championship. You know, there's a lot of possibilities out there. Maybe one of those in Dubai as well. They have already big tournaments, and it will really make that feel of a world golf tournament. If you have maybe 8 to 10 that would make that, and there wouldn't be any fallouts, because you would still have other tournaments, side tournaments, going along with those WGCs. So there's a lot that could go along with it. I honestly don't see how they would be able to do this about those top 8 players. But
Carlos, I just came up with a thought while you were talking. So let me throw this up here a little bit, okay? So let's say that I'm the PGA Tour. Let's say that I want to expand my reach across the world. The European Tour is there. They travel all over the world. They've got the infrastructure in place, but they need some money. I got a lot of money. I got a big bank account. I got millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank. So, you know, during a depression or during a financial crisis, the guys that have the money, they make out pretty good, because they're able to buy stuff at 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents on the dollar. All of a sudden, 4 or 5 years later, boom, everything's back up to full price. My money just doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, right? So if I'm the PGA Tour, maybe I go to the European Tour and say, hey, Keith, how about I loan you some money to get through here? I know you're going to make a bunch of money on the Ryder Cup, you know, and I'll take some of that money. But you know what I really want to do? I want to get our players, I want to make more inroads for the PGA Tour into Europe. How about we come up with some big events, and we'll let some of our players come over and play in your stuff, and we'll make them big tour events, big money events. We'll really promote them. We'll bring this golf game more around the world. We'll elevate your status. We'll help us, and we'll all make a bunch of money in the interim, and you're going to pay me back interest on the money I'm going to loan you, and everybody's going to be real happy. You know, I don't know. I have no reason to think anything like that happened, but just as you were talking, that kind of thought crossed my mind. Who would be the most advantageous to help the European Tour? It might be the PGA Tour. Without buying them, just go ahead and finance. I used to work for a guy who owned a lot of businesses, and in his industry, he was well known. And so we would wholesale product. So he would wholesale product into a business he knew that was kind of struggling a little bit, you know, on a little bit of credit. Okay. Well, if the guy couldn't pay it, he'd end up buying the guy's business out for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. Boom, he adds another business to his conglomerate. That makes a perfect business sense move from the PGA Tour to help slide in and start funding some money for the European Tour.
Most definitely. It makes sense. And it reminds me of Shark Tank, where Kevin Harrington always says, I don't want to own it. I just want a 7%
exactly.
royalty.
Little taste. I need a little taste.
Just a little bit. And that's what it will make total sense, right? The PGA Tour will still get some piece of the pie. They will get what they want, which is more money and more recognition, because now the European Tour gets a win-win as well. they get to elevate some of the tournaments. They get that promotion that they need, and they get the money as well. So, hey, who knows? Again, Keith Paley, Jay Monahan, Fred, and I are here. We have been throwing dozens of ideas to you guys, and just throw a little bit.
Our consulting fees, we can be very reasonable on our consulting fees. $1 million would go a long ways with us, wouldn't it, Carlos?
I'll go like Kevin Harrington, Mr. Wonderful. We'll go 7%. That's the standard fee. But anyway, talking about.
Thank you a deal you can't refuse.
Hey, talking about supposedly a company that's maybe in trouble. Last week, Wes Valentine from ProGolfNow.com reported that Callaway Golf is struggling to produce good golf equipment and relevant marketing. That apparently is a combo that spells big trouble for the future. Fred, I'm going to give you the first crack at this one. What are your thoughts? Do you really think Callaway Golf is in trouble?
It could be, Carlos. There's too many golf companies right now competing for too little of a pie. And some of these guys have socked a lot of money into research and development and developing products. We've seen TaylorMade kind of take a little different tack over the last few years. I'm going to throw some names out to you, Carlos. Spalding, Powerbilt, McGregor, Wilson. Well, Wilson's still around a little bit, but not to the way that they used to be. These are names from the past that are no longer really big players in the golf industry that really were big in golf, several years ago. Is Callaway one of those names that we're going to look back on fondness in the foreseeable future? Titleist, they've always got the golf ball. They lead that market in the golf ball. That's what they want. They're the big dog in the golf ball. Cleveland developed it. They got their claim to fame by developing really good wedges. TaylorMade and Callaway went after the driver market, the bubble shaft, Big Bertha drivers in the 90s. And so they really got kick-started with that. But now the golf world is just full of these conglomerates. You got TaylorMade, Callaway, Cobra, Titleist, which is Acushnet actually. So they're shoes, balls, clubs, everything now, rain suits, all that stuff. And, Titleist FootJoy does have really good quality products. There's no question about it. But can all of these competitors survive in the marketplace today? Club manufacturers are constantly coming out with new and improved lines to get gotta have the newest and best golf club that buyers are going to spend their hard-earned cash for. Do all these new lines really add up to 10 more yards every time? No. Callaway's ball is still seen to be behind Titleist, maybe even Bridgestone, although they do have a couple of great balls for the average golfer. Their new iron line is nothing really to write home about. Their drivers are in steep competition with TaylorMade, Titleist, Cobra, Ping, and others. Is there still enough room at the end for all these brands if they're not showing a measurable difference of game improvement to the average golfer, the guy that spends the money? Golf club manufacturing is not for the weak of heart. It's a high-stakes game that takes millions and millions of dollars to test and research a new product, then millions more to bring it to market on the hope that somebody's going to dole out $500 or $600 to buy a new driver or $1,200 to buy a set of irons. Some of these names, like Callaway, are going to get cut out. They're not going to make it. When they do, we're going to be here to report it, Carlos. You can count on that.
Well, Fred, I have moved to Wall Street right now.
I see that. Very nice.
Let's talk Wall Street, okay? On March 18 of this year, that was the day that COVID-19 stopped the sports world in its tracks. Callaway Golf closed the trading session at $5.34. That was the lowest since they closed $5.07 back in July 10 of 2009, which, it was because that's where the recession was basically starting to peak. Now, take it back to today. It was at $15.54. So it has recovered $10 in a span of 2 months. Everywhere I am seeing on investment advice is to buy the share. And then again, I'm talking Wall Street, okay? They have a target price that they raised it from $22 to $26 just this past week. So the scholars there at Wall Street are saying, hey, you know, this stock is a buy one. This is the one that you have to look for. And they're recommending to buy. Now, why? Some of the things is, if you see last quarter, they reported earnings of 32 cents per share. That beat the prediction estimate of 30 cents that they were doing. That means that over the last 4 quarters, the company has surpassed the consensus EPS estimates 3 out of the 4 times. That, I mean, for a company that is supposedly in problems, that doesn't seem like they are that much in problems, right? Now, I am doing. There are non-tangible things that can affect stocks, and that is somewhat the point that Valentine brought in his article, right? Like, you don't know those things, but in my opinion, investors are always mindful of the fact that the outlook for the industry can have material impact on the performance of the stock as well. What does all this mean? Well, at this moment, all I see is reopenings everywhere, right? We have talked about it. Everything is starting to climb back up. It's not normal yet, but there's some sort of reestablishing of the industry. That is why you see the Callaway stock going back up again, okay? It's growing back steadily. So as the industry looks to go up, they should be going back up. I just think there was a recess and everybody was out. They were not purchasing anything. There was nobody playing. There was nothing to buy at. Callaway has been at top of this brands for a long time. And looking at their numbers and earning reports, for now, they're looking like a definite buy. And I don't think that there's going to be anything happening to them anytime soon. I just think let's hold on, and like Wall Street is saying, hey, buy, because everything is starting to climb back up.
Back Nine Report. We cover the golf news, but we can also give you the financial reports too. We can do it all, buddy.
See, we do everything, and we prepare. We have to go to Wall Street. That's what we do for you. Okay, next one. You mentioned at the top of the show that little John Daly did well in a junior event at Crookstick, which was the same course that his dad John won the 1991 PGA and then burst into the world golf scene. Fres, tell us about it. About this nice story.
Yeah, they had a junior event at Crookstick, which is the same course that John Daly, the dad, won the 1991 PGA, burst onto the scene as the 8th alternate, the last and final alternate to get into the 91 PGA because Nick Price had to withdraw, if you remember. Well, his son, Little John, also made a splash at Crookstick last week when he finished tied for runner-up in a tournament for high school players. Daly finished in a 3-way tie for second behind the winner, John Marshall Butler from Louisville, Kentucky. He was 4 over par for the 2-day 54-hole event, featured 33 of the top high school age boys in the country. So, I mean, he's already a pretty good amateur. So it's going to be cool to see what he does maybe in the junior am if they play it this year. I can't remember if that's been canceled or not. Some of those have. Young John attends Bishopgate Golf Academy in Clearwater, Florida. He lives with his mother. He does spend a lot of time with dad in Arkansas in the summertime. We have seen young John paired with his dad in the PNC father-son thing that goes on there in December. He's a very nice player for a kid. He does a really good job. So maybe he's achieving the type of success early in his young life and looking to play collegiate golf. Maybe he's even going to have a successful pro career in a few years and maybe be a little more responsible with his money than his dad was along the way. So we're going to keep an eye on young John, see where he goes to college, see what he does with his golf career. But He's off to a nice start. Had a really good tournament at Crooked Stick there in Indianapolis. Matter of fact, Crooked Stick is where, of course, he's deceased now, but that's where Pete and Alice Dye lived in the summertime in Indianapolis at their Crooked Stick.
John Daly Jr., as long as you stay away from your dad's fashion decisions.
Oh no, he's wearing the collar. He's wearing the stuff, man.
Oh, Johnny. Okay, well, I wish you the best. Really. You can do it with the club and not with the fashion statements. Let's talk about Annika Sorensen. As you all know, she has devoted time and resources to women's golf developments over the years, particularly with an AJGA event, the Annika Invitational, and events in Europe and Australia, along with taking part in the new Women's Amateur Latin America. Now, her latest effort is to help aspiring professionals. How is she going to do that? Well, Sorensen announced the Annika Foundation Crisis Relief Fund to provide immediate financial help to players on the Symetra Tour that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Symetra Tour provides direct access to the LPGA Tour for the top 10 on the money list, but it's not going to happen this year because of this shutdown in golf, especially also in the LPGA. The LPGA is maintaining the status for its members, and an advancement from the Symetra Tour will have to wait until next year, 2021, unfortunately. So Sorensen is planning to award 100 grants for $500 each towards qualified applicants from the Symetra Tour. Now, that deadline to apply is going to be pretty soon. It's going to be June 12th, next week, basically, on Friday. And it's going to be granting, those grants will be distributed on July 1st. It's going to be right away. Annika is also accepting donations to the fund, with all of it going to the Symetra Tour players. So it's not only what she's offering right there right now, but it's great to see. I mean, Annika has always been at the forefront of helping out, and she is the first one to offer anything that comes her way. And it's nice to see how she's going now out for the Symetra Tour players who really are suffering the brunt of it. The LPGA they cannot make it to the LPGA for 2021. They're going to have to wait to compete on the Symetra Tour next year. So it will be until 2022 that really, Fred, we're going to be seeing those players. So it's great for Annika, and we tip our hat to her.
Yeah, we've had Annika on the show, and she talked about her foundation, and she does a tremendous amount for young junior golfers working their way up to get into college, play college golf, and then for the most talented ones to make it to the Sumatra and the LPGA Tour. She is one of the leading advocates for young women's golf in the world. Those 7 events that she hosts around the world are great events. And so $50,000, it's only $500 a pop they're giving away. That doesn't sound like much, but every little bit helps. I'm sure the young ladies are going to really appreciate getting that money. Also, the foundation, the Annika Foundation, is making a $5,000 donation to the PGA of America's Golf Emergency Relief Fund. So Annika's right out there in the forefront. She's not playing anymore, but man, she's taking her role as one of the leaders in the golf industry seriously, and really doing a great job for women's golf in the whole world, Carlos.
And we applaud her for that. She's a great champion, a grand pioneer, and a great humanitarian as well. So we wish her the best. And hey, she said she's accepting donations. So if you want to do it, you can just go to the Annika Foundation webpage and just can do that for her right there. Now, let's talk about this. Was interesting because let's put it this way. Let's start phrasing it this way. After several years of not being at the top of his game, Tiger Woods, he's been making a comeback, right? He's also back in the news for his new documentary, Tiger Slam, which is commemorating his legendary 2001 season. Of course, that was the Tiger Slam. So it's clear Tiger's game has moved past that 2009 divorce drama, but has his finances bounced back? We already know his game has. Well, you might remember Elling walked away with $100 million back then. And he also lost about $22 million in investments. Hey, but we're happy to report he's still the top paid golfer in the world and one of the four golfers to hit the Forbes top athletes in the Forbes top 100 athletes in earnings list. Now, it's the same four as 4 years ago. Now, they have switched places now in the list of the positions in this time. So Tiger Woods raked in at number 8 with $62.3 million. Combined endorsement and on-course earnings, of course, most of it has been endorsements. Rory McIlroy's number 14, he's $52 million. Number 25, Phil Mickelson, $40.8 million. Phil Mickelson was actually the second back then 4 years ago. Jordan Spieth was the third back then. He's at number 52 right now with $27.6 million. So, Fred, happy to report there are some golfers among the top 100 paid athletes in the world. And the list doesn't surprise. Definitely those are the top four most popular players right now, the ones that rake in the promotions and the endorsements, and of course four of the top players in the world right now.
Yeah, a couple things from this, Carlos. We talk about this every year. I always find it kind of interesting. I'm feeling kind of sorry for Tiger Woods, actually. Only making $62 million. Back in the day, he was making $100 million a year there for about 4 or 5 years in a row. 62, that's only 62% of what he used to make. That's a 38% pay cut, Carlos. So I don't know how the poor boy is getting along, actually. But Tiger did jump back up to the top of the list in golf, top 10 on the Forbes list of earnings for the year. 62 mil, not a bad year, really. Jordan Spieth is maybe the surprising one there, but he's got that big contract with Under Armour that makes him a lot of money a year. We already know that Rory he's getting 52 mil. He gets 25 mil a year from Nike. So, he gets a lot of money from that. He put, a bunch of money in his pocket with the FedEx Cup. And so he's having a pretty good time of it as well. The other thing that I kind of looked at, of the top 100 players in earnings for the year, 35 of them were from the NBA. 35% of the highest money earners are from the NBA. The NFL has 31 players. So between those, 66% of the top 100 are either from the NBA or the NFL. Then you've got 14 soccer players. Baseball only has one player in the top 100. That really surprised me. Some of the baseball players make pretty good money. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. But only 4 golfers in the top 100. That doesn't seem quite right to me. I would think there should be, with the money that's out there in golf, with sponsorships and prize money today, I would think there'd be 6 or 7 guys from golf in the top 100. Kind of surprised me that there weren't, Carlos.
Well, there were 5. It reduced to 4 this week. Dustin Johnson made it for 1 year there. But I'm not surprised. I mean, the salaries of those NBA players and the
astronomical
football players are just out of this world. So it's just, and they keep racing every year. I mean, you just see how much Patrick Mahomes is said to make as the top paid quarterback.
Yeah, but the quarterbacks make good money in the NFL, but nobody else does. But out of the 30 quarterbacks, there's 4 or 5 of those guys that make pretty good money.
Yeah, but then after that, the top receiver, the top running backs, and the top of each one of those positions.
Yeah.
That's where you take that 30-some players that they have. Yeah. Same thing for the basketball. There's going to be those are the ones that are the record-breaking ones. Plus, it's not only their salary, just like Tiger, because Tiger is not maybe the top earner in money on course, but he's the top earner outside because of his endorsements. And that's why Jordan Spieth is there as well, because of his Under Armour contract that is still running. It's not because of how much they're making in there. So you add what they're making in endorsements, and that's why there's that disparity there, and you don't see that much there. MLB players, really, they're making the play their salary, and why it's not surprising is because they don't have that kind of endorsements. If you see that they don't have that appeal on the marketing scene right now, and that's why whatever they make is basically what they're making annually. I mean, they do make endorsements, but it's not as big as all of those other sports, especially soccer that has a worldwide appeal. But anyway, it's interesting to see, and like you mentioned, every year we talk about this, and we'll definitely see how it changes. I'm definitely going to keep this list here and see how it goes next year. But I don't think that there's going to be much to talk about with this coronavirus happening. So it has caught a lot of the salaries and payments out there. One player that we know is not going to be making some money anytime soon is Vijay Singh. The reason is because he has pulled out of the Corn Ferry Tour event that is going to be held at TPC Sawgrass next weekend. That is following the heavy disapproval from some fellow professional golfers. Very sad to see this because, we talked about this when it happened before, the criticism of him that he was going to play in this tournament. He has won 34 times on the PGA Tour. He was eligible for the event, but he was raked over by the coals by some of the young pros trying to make their way because he was taking a spot from somebody trying to earn a PGA Tour card. Guess what? It's not going to happen this year. Anyway, we'll talk. Singh has already earned his PGA Tour card for life. 20 PGA Tour wins will get you there. He has 34. And ostensibly just wanted to get some reps in as he couldn't get into the Charles Schwab Challenge on the PGA Tour that same week. At the beginning of May, that event is a more limited field, and nearly all of the top players have entered, which kept Vijay from playing in it. You might remember we talked about British now, who is he? Well, he's known because he was the one that criticized Vijay the loudest, and since then he has changed his harsh words, like he called him a piece of trash and a turd, to some more subdued words on the New York Post. He kept his stance, but he still said that that's why he became famous, nothing else. Then you have Phil Mickelson, of all people. He stood up for Vijay, saying that he said, I'm going to quote him. He says he has earned the right to play when and wherever he wants. Way to go, Phil. Way to go. That's right. That's how it is. Fred, Lefty and Singh were not very close during their coinciding careers at the top of the official world golf ranking. So for Lefty to say anything at all was quite meaningful, and he was right on it. Vijay's 57. He contended at last year's On the Classic, where he finished 6th. Since then, he has not made a cut in an officially recognized official world golf ranking event worldwide. Okay? If he just wanted, he earned the right to play wherever he is. It was not Rory McIlroy playing on the Corn Ferry Tour. We're talking about a player that is past his prime. He would have brought just not only his name there, but the attention to a tour that badly needs it. And like Phil said, he has earned the right where and whenever he wants to. I just think this is sad that it happened, that he had to back out just because a few fools were just making a lot of noise out there.
Carlos, I agree with you 100%. Vijay Singh, 34 career wins, 3 major championships, a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. He's 57 years old. He should be able to play. If it's a PGA Tour sanctioned event, he should be able to play in it if he wants to play. It would have been good for the tournament. Matter of fact, I was looking forward to see how he did. And I'm not usually watching too many Corn Ferry Tour events, but I would have paid attention to see what Vijay was doing at that tournament. So, yeah, it's too bad that he had to cave in to all the public relations issues around that. But, he's a guy who likes to play, and I'm sure he's antsy being home. He wants to get out and play. He can't play in Fort Worth. I'm sure he was just looking for a place to play and then caught all this grief. But Oh, well, that's the way the world goes these days. Carlos, I got a question of the week where the question of the week is back this week, okay? And I got one for you, okay? We all know that Tiger Woods won 3 majors in 2000. The U.S. Open at Pebble, the Open Championship at St. Andrews, and the PGA at Valhalla. Plus, he won the 2001 Masters to complete the Tiger Slam of 4 consecutive major titles. The one that got away from him was the 2000 Masters, where he finished T5. My question is, who won that 2000 Masters when Tiger Woods finished T5, Carlos?
See, if it would be Kieran here, he would definitely blur it out immediately. But I don't have that recollection right now. Who won?
I teed it up for you, buddy. Vijay Singh won the 2000 Masters. Tiger Woods finished 5th. But then he also had won the 1999 PGA. And so he had won 5 of 6 major championships or something like that, going forward there. So nobody does that kind of stuff. Only Tiger Woods does that. Even Jack Nicklaus in his heyday didn't do that kind of stuff. So I found that interesting, and I just caught that as I was looking through stuff today. Carlos, back to you.
There you have it. The COVID-19 had taken away the trivia for a little while, but the lockdown on the trivia is out. Okay, so Fred brought it back, and hopefully we'll have more every week. That's very interesting, and it was a great run that Tiger did have during those 2 years. Basically, he was dominating everywhere, and that was really where his legend was made. Well, now it's time for our VIG, very important guest of the week, and that's going to be also kicking off what is going to be our practice range, where we're going to talk about basically returning back to play golf. And all 10 golf courses are now open at Boyne Resort in northern Michigan. They have updated their safety protocols for visitors, plus they are offering some outstanding stay and play packages right now. You have to go and look at them. Our guest tonight is Ken Griffin, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Golf at Boyne. Fred and Ken had a Zoom conference call earlier in the week, and they talked about the condition of the courses as well as the additional safety measures they're taking to assure everyone feels comfortable when visiting their resorts. So, Fred, any words you have to add before we play this interview?
No, as you know, Ken is a real good friend of ours here at the show. Boyne is a supporter of Back Nine Report, and I've been talking to Ken all through this lockdown and shutdown, what they're doing, when they're going to be opening, and so when they're ready to reopen, I wanted to get him on the show, and so we were able to put this together. So, Carlos, go ahead and play it.
Let's play it.
We're so happy to have Ken Griffin, the Director of Sales and Marketing for Golf at Boyne Resorts up near Petoskey, Michigan. They have 3 resorts there, 10 golf courses. If you're looking for a great place for a summer vacation, golf getaway, girls golf outing, whatever you're looking for, Boyne has got it all, don't they, Ken?
It's great, and it's great to have all 10 courses open again. We've worked our way through. We had, went through we did our part, and all the resorts were shut down for all activities. In fact, the resorts just opened on Friday the 29th. But, with golf on May 1, we started walking the Heather course. Once we were given the opportunity to do that, then, a couple weeks later, we were able to use carts. We had 5 courses open with individual riders. And then as of last weekend, we were given the green light to go ahead and allow 2 riders per cart. So this weekend, we opened up all 10 courses.
Couple of things along with that. You've got the hotels, you've got rooms available now, you've got restaurants available now, so you got food service, you can do the stay and play packages. What are some of the protocols that you put in place that are different than what maybe you had before?
Well, from a hotel standpoint, it's going to be a different experience when you walk in. We have hand sanitizers out in front. You're going to see some shields in front of the front counters, just like you see in the retail stores or in a Meijer or something right now. For those transactions. All of our staff get daily testing before they leave the parking lot and walk into the resort, as far as temperature check. wear a mask on an individual basis. You know, a lot more intense room cleaning. We've even upgraded the number of times it's cleaned, and as well as the products that we're using to meet all the latest standards. Doing our part to just try and, you know, minimize the risk, but realize that we all want to get out. We're all tired of being cooped up at home for 100 days, and it's time to get out and slowly get back. It's not going to be the same this summer, but that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy some of the activities or going out and having a sit-down dinner now. You know, in northern Michigan, the two northern zones last weekend were allowed to start having sit-down dining. So it's only 50% capacity. But in addition to our restaurants, you're also going to find, you know, the majority of the restaurants in Petoskey and Harbor Springs and Boyne City are open at the same time. So there's good variety both on property and off property to get some meals.
Now let me ask you this: what are you seeing as far as traffic now that it has opened up? Are people just rushing to get up there?
Last weekend was busy, but last weekend we didn't open our resorts in full. We had our restaurants open, you know, our golf course, you know, you can get food and beverage on the course. And it's a good idea to get your food and beverage on the course because we hope to sometime later, but right now we don't have cart service on the court. So, you know, you need to get what you need there before you leave the pad or one of the restaurants on course. Last weekend, the courses got busy because that's what we had open, the 5 courses. So, and we're seeing reservations. I mean, people are still booked. People are still coming. Both hotels were checking, or all 3 hotels were checking in guests yesterday.
What different safety protocols are in effect for the golf courses?
Well, when you drive up, you know, it was good news. The first 3 weeks, we didn't even have bag staff on. Now, since last weekend, we're allowed to have bag staff. They're allowed to give you some assistance, but they're going to ask you if you want assistance. They're not just going to come and grab your bags from you like we normally would have done it. We're going to see what you feel comfortable with whenever you come. We are allowed to ride, like I said, 2 to a cart now, and don't necessarily have to be from the same household. Whenever you're out on course, right now we have all of our tee boxes open, but we don't have all of the tee markers in place necessarily. That's another touch point. We don't have water stations. So water is available for purchase, but we don't have the water stations out all over the course. Whenever you hit the ball in a trap, then you're just able to go retrieve it and put it back. It's more like it's under construction. So no rakes in the bunkers. The flags, obviously, like everybody else, anybody that's been playing golf, most of these rules they're used to already. We actually have the bottom of the cups blocked off, so only, you know, you can go in. The cup isn't raised, so it's a very natural feel to it. The ball can roll around and drop in, but we've got them cut off pool noodles down about 3/4 of an inch, so that you then just go down and retrieve your ball. I know people were incorporating, guys and girls are incorporating different thoughts. Instead of, you know, everybody taking turns to putt, just putt out. So.
I know a couple of real quick questions here. You've got some great packages going on, and we've been awful wet up here in northern Michigan. What kind of condition are the courses in, and what special package deals have you got going on right now?
Well, yes, the courses were wet Friday afternoon because we had very heavy rain Thursday and Thursday morning. But right now they're drying out. We've got a beautiful weekend that we're in the middle of right now. The courses I played last weekend, I'm going back out again this afternoon, and the courses are in great shape. I am surprisingly good shape. I know it's the marketing guy, and everybody's going to say that. But I played with my brother-in-law last weekend, and we played on the monument that had only been open in 3 days. He's like, or the Alpine rather, sorry. Only been open 3 days, and he's like, I cannot believe how good the courses are for all the longer you've been open and all the longer our growing season's been. So.
What kind of packages can we look for right now, Ken? Guys should jump on this. You got some pretty good deals going, don't you?
Well, we do. We knew that everybody's been wondering what was going to happen, and we are just able to open hotels, so we wanted to give some incentives. So we've got some stay and play packages through June 14th that start at $88 for spending a night and then playing 18 the next day. And then for somebody that really wants to get a bunch of golf in a short period of time, we have a play it your way package that runs through the entire month of June. the Play It Your Way is 2 nights and 4 rounds. So you can come up, play double duck, play 2 rounds each day, or if you come up late afternoon, you can play an arrival round, play 2 rounds, play another round on your getaway day. So you can put those together any way you want, but those start at 200. And now too, because we had a limited course offering, and now you have the variety of all 10 courses for those kind of prices. So it's a very good deal.
Been talking with Ken Griffin, Director of Sales and Marketing for Golf at Boyne Resort. Ken, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us for a minute, and we can't wait to get back up there and check everything out.
Fred, it's always great. Tell Pat I said hi.
Will do. Thanks.
There you have it, Fred. That was Ken Griffin, and definitely they seem like they're ready. It's just about you going there to their website and see all those packages and just start to getting back out to those golf resorts. And that will segue that interview into what is our practice range or our topic for the week, which is, are you ready to travel and visit a golf resort? We just saw that Boyne is definitely ready. They have the packages in. Are you ready to go back? That is the big question that we're making right now. I mean, would you drive in? Would you fly? Would you eat in at the restaurant? You heard Ken talking about all the safety measures in place, and I'm sure that everywhere they're doing the same thing. I mean, we've heard about it and we've talked about it. What are the concerns that you may have? Or would you be okay if you see an employee wear a mask? Would it be uncomfortable for you, or would you be uncomfortable if they wouldn't do it? What would be your thing? How about the touching the food? It has to be touchless, like we have been contactless, like we have seen in many other places as well. So Fred, tell me your take on this right now.
Yeah, we had last week, we talked to Kay and Chad from Southern Alabama. So we're going from coast to the southern coast, clear to the northern part of the United States here this week with Boyne. And Carlos, in the summertime, there's just no better place to be than Boyne Resort. They've got 10 courses. It's beautiful country up there. They're on Lake Michigan. It's just fantastic up there. So as far as being safe, you heard both of those last week and this week saying that they have other additional protocols in place to make visitors feel safe. They're doing more cleaning inside the resorts, the hotels, the restaurants, all those things. They're doing more cleaning and disinfecting to carts, to everything that a visitor would touch. So they're doing everything in their power to make them safe. And Carlos, quite honestly, people have been moving around now up here for the last couple of weeks. Things have really opened up. There's no new cases of COVID-19 being reported. There's no big spike because people are out moving around more. People know what they need to do to be safe. I'm still going in the store. People are still keeping a safe distance. Not as many people are wearing masks, but a lot of people are. There's a plexiglass up between the cash register and the purchaser. So that makes the person working behind the cash register feel safe. All these things are in place. No different for the golf industry and for golf resorts. They're bending over backwards to make sure that everything is safe and ready to go for people when they want to visit. So Carlos, one of the reasons for this is that, we both feel that over the next several months, guys are going to want to go play golf. People are going to want to travel a little bit and get out, but they may not be willing to get on an airplane just so much. So we're talking more about places where you can go and travel. We'll have somebody on from French Lick here in a week or two. That's a great place to go. We're talking to Boyne this week. Really, even though Gulf Shores is clear down on the coast, from Toledo, you can drive down there in about 14, 15 hours if you want to drive it. So these things can all be driven to. They're inside the United States. You don't have to have a 2-week quarantine period. If you watch what you do, be careful. They've got the safety protocols in place. There's no reason you can't go. So as far as are the rooms clean and disinfected? Yes. Are you being too close to employees while staying in the hotel? The employees are all masked. They're doing the best they can. They're using gloves. They're washing their hands. They're doing everything that's all mandatory for the employees to do this. Food service, everything's been gone through by the food managers to make sure it's being prepared as safely as it possibly can. You know, so I don't know what else we can say, Carlos. If somebody's sitting at home behind locked doors and, you know, worrying about being out in the population, up here, where there's not that big of a population, it's not really a problem. I wouldn't want to be in Detroit. I wouldn't want to be in New York. I wouldn't want to be in LA. I wouldn't want to be in Atlanta. I don't know about Dallas, where you're at. I'd stay away from the big cities. But if you come to places like this, where it's not populated, they're doing a good job and you can feel relatively safe going to a golf resort.
I think we have seen it with, like you said, Kay and Chad, and this week with Ken and all the other people that we have talked to. And you've seen it there. I've seen it here. And even Dallas, which is just south of me, is one of the big cities of the U.S. And yes, they've been affected, but, you know, they are taking care of things. And I am sure that the resorts want their business back somehow. They're not going to be just like the golf courses that we have said. They're taking those measures, extra precautionary measures, to make sure people are safe, is because they want them back. But of course, they don't want to be that one that says, because of you, we have to go back and close it down. So you better make sure they're going to be making sure you are going to be safe. I mean, I was just going to the drive-thru today at Chick-fil-A, and the guy in the drive-thru he put this plastic bin with the food inside. It's the first time I go to the drive-thru. I was bringing some lunch, and the funny thing, I was like, am I supposed to take the bin with me or what? The thing was that is the way that they're making it contactless for you to get your food. Okay, so, you know, they're taking in everywhere. You see how they're being innovative about keeping you safe and keeping everybody in distance. I've gone to dine out and not dine out, but I've gone to do some breakfast out and lunch out, and everywhere you see that they're taking those measures. I mean, they have, I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant, but they have, of course, tables between them, that one, yes, not the other one, so they can keep those 6 feet between them. When I got there, they had this green dot over it. That means it was sanitized. It says it there. So whenever the person goes out, they turn it back out to red. It means this unsanitized, don't sit on it. And when I was watching purposely, when somebody left from one of the tables, they immediately came in there, clean it up, make sure everything was fine, and then they turn it to green so that somebody else can use it. That's what we're seeing everywhere. It's about us to be safe as well. It's up to us to make sure that others don't get infected. You know, if it's a collective effort and everybody does their part, we're going to get over this. So I would definitely feel fine going to all these places, because I know and I have seen to the extent that they're going to, and we have listened to it here in the show. And yeah, there's the danger still out there, but it's up to us whether we take our measures. If you want to do it by using a mask, gloves, whatever makes you feel comfortable, do it. You know, we just have to respect that as well from everybody. You take your decisions that way, I'll take mine my way. Let's just respect each other the way that you do it. I'm being safe about trying not to. I've been considerate with everybody else. You know, I don't go out there and just being irresponsible and all that. So I think it's time to start venturing out. Yes, the danger's still out there. It's real, but it's up to us, friend. It's up to us.
I've said it before on the show, Carlos. I'm so impressed with how everyone that I've been in contact with, every retail outlet, every person is very mindful, very respectful of everyone else, and just being careful and doing what they can do to be safe. I'm just so impressed with everything at this point. And these golf resorts have gone the extra mile. The golf associations in every state have the lists and stuff that everybody needs to do, and they're all following it. I'm so impressed. And if somebody doesn't feel safe today, they need to get out, and let's get things going again. And I think we're going in the right direction, Carlos.
Definitely, we are. We can't wait to see how people start, going back and venturing out. Keep staying safe. That's just the key. Anyway, Fred, before we close this show, we have 3 final putts, and I know you're going to give us some information.
Yeah, number one, something close to me, Peapot Jarasget, who was a wonderful junior player in Toledo, went to Brown University, one of the Ivy League schools in Providence, Rhode Island, to play college golf. She played her freshman year, sophomore year, very successful years, doing a great job. She's a fantastic student as well, so she's doing well. She likes Brown. Brown just announced that they're dropping 11 sports. They had 20-some sports, or dropped 11 of them, and of course, women's golf was one of them. And so I talked with her the other day. She gave me a quote. I'm going to have it in the June. I'm going to have an article about it in the June Ohio Golf Journal. But it's just more of this thing about college golf cutting back, Carlos. And I'm just going to see more and more of it. It's really unfortunate. Second story, 25 carts were vandalized at a Brooklyn golf course. That's Brooklyn, New York. Of course, all the golf courses around New York City proper have been closed since like the beginning of March. So this was like a third of their cart inventory or something like that. And so even if they were able to open up golf tomorrow, they probably wouldn't be in bad shape, because they're not going to have enough carts to give single rider carts out to everyone if they mandate that. So just some kids, having a good time. Looked like a tornado went through. They just wrecked all these carts, just tore them up. Also, I want to get mentioned in, one of my favorite places, Carlos, is Bandon Dunes. It's been through my head. I want to get back out there. I may get back out there yet this year. They just officially opened up the Sheep Ranch yesterday. Of course, that's now the 5th golf course open there at Bandon Dunes. And it's a Coeur Crenshaw. The Sheep Ranch had been there for some years, but it was only you could only go there. You had to know somebody, okay? It only had like 6 greens. You could play it from different ways. It really didn't have a specific routing. But the Sheep Ranch has a full mile of oceanfront up on the cliff. They put 9 greens along that oceanfront on this new golf course they built. It's a par 72. It's only 6,600 yards. Can't wait to see it. I got to get back out there. I've been thinking about a way to get back out there yet this fall. So just want to let everybody know, if they're looking for a reason to get to Bandon Dunes, Sheep Ranch is definitely it, and Bandon Dunes does it right. It's fantastic. June issue of Michigan Golf Journal is now available now. Ohio Golf Journal will be out next week for the June issue. You can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on Roku. Tune in, iTunes. We're everywhere, Carlos. Dial us up.
We're just 1 week away from starting again the PGA Tour. Yes, there's not going to be fans on it, but the Charles Schwab Challenge is coming to Fort Worth next week. So Back Niners, that wraps up another week of the Back Nine Report. We thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. We have to give special thanks to our VIG, very important guest of the week, King Griffin, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Golf at Boyne. Don't forget to see us again next week on YouTube, or if you miss it, check it on the audio version, either on TuneIn or iTunes. And if you haven't done so, what are you waiting for? Follow the show on Twitter. Our ID is at Back9Report. The number 9 is in the middle. My name is Carlos Torres, along with Fred Altvater. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
Hope we see you on the Back Nine.